I never thought I'd meet someone who could drive me insane in less than 5 minutes. But there he was, leaning against the counter of that overcrowded coffee shop like he owned the place, smirking at the barista as if she had personally offended him by asking if he wanted skim milk or whole. And the moment our eyes met, I knew this man was trouble. I don't mean the kind of trouble you can ignore, like a pop quiz or a missed deadline. I mean the kind of trouble that burrows under your skin, sets your teeth on edge, and somehow, inexplicably, makes your pulse race. Are you serious? I muttered under my breath as he waved his hand to get the barista's attention. Do you always have to be so insufferable? Of course, he didn't hear me. Or maybe he did, because the corner of his mouth twitched as if he knew exactly what I was thinking. And that alone made me want to shove my coffee mug into his smug face. We met because of work, or, more accurately, because fate, or some cruel cosmic joke, decided to make him my project partner. A high-stakes client presentation, a week to prep, and zero tolerance for which would have been fine, except that he acted like he was the smartest person in the room and worse, like everyone else was hopelessly slow, including me. Do you even know what you're talking about? I asked him during our first brainstorming session. His smile widened, as if he had been waiting for me to challenge him. On the contrary, he said, voice smooth and irritatingly confident. I think I know exactly what I'm talking about. You, on the other hand. He leaned back, eyes scanning me with a look that screamed, this is going to be interesting. I felt my face heat up. Irritation surged through me like electricity. This guy, he's impossible. But then, something strange happened. As much as I wanted to glare and storm out of the conference room, I couldn't stop myself from paying attention. I noticed the subtle twitch of his eyebrow when he disagreed with someone, the way he leaned slightly forward when he wanted to make a point, the faint scar above his left eyebrow that somehow made him seem more human, and that was the problem. Because no matter how much I told myself he was arrogant, irritating, and insufferable, I couldn't deny the magnetic pull. Every sarcastic remark, every challenge, every smug grin seemed to hit me harder than it should have. And I hated that. The first night we stayed late at the office, sorting through endless spreadsheets, I wanted to scream. He hummed under his breath while typing, a low, annoyingly confident sound that made my chest tighten. You're weirdly focused, he said suddenly, breaking the silence. I'm not weirdly focused, I snapped. I'm competent, which is more than I can say for your approach. He laughed softly, that annoying, knowing laugh. You're funnier than I expected. In a terrifying, aggressive kind of way. I wanted to punch him, or kiss him. I wasn't sure which. By the end of the week, our back and forth had escalated from professional disagreements to personal jabs, little comments about lunch habits, meeting styles, even the way we each held our pens. Everyone else on the team noticed, whispering behind our backs about the tension. But what they didn't know was what was happening underneath it all. That under the irritation, the sarcasm, and the verbal sparring, something else was growing. Something I couldn't name yet. Late one night, the office was empty, and we were the last two there. I rubbed my temples, exhausted. He stood behind my chair, leaning casually against the desk. You know, he said, softer this time, you're not as unbearable as you think. I nearly choked on my coffee. What does that even mean? It means, he said, voice low, eyes meeting mine, that I like you. Don't tell anyone I said that. It ruins the illusion. I wanted to argue, to deny, to tell him he was delusional, but the truth, my chest tightened, my thoughts scattered, and I realized something terrifying. I wanted to believe him. I hated him. I hated the way he got under my skin. I hated the way he made me question myself. I hated every word he said. And yet, in that quiet, empty office, with only the hum of fluorescent lights, I found myself wanting him more than I could admit. The next week was torture. Fate, or whatever cruel force was responsible for this nightmare, decided we'd be spending nearly every waking hour together. Same project, same office, same deadlines. He was like this unavoidable storm, constantly buzzing with energy. Full of smart comments, sarcastic jabs, and that infuriating grin that somehow made my heart beat faster even when I tried to ignore it. Every morning started the same. He would stroll in late, coffee in hand, looking completely unbothered by the looming deadlines, while I had already triple-checked every spreadsheet and presentation slide. And of course, the first thing he'd do was lean over my desk and smirk. You're way too serious, he said the first morning. Relax. Life isn't a PowerPoint slide. I didn't answer. I just stared. Internally, I was boiling. Relax. I had deadlines, not philosophy lectures from Mr. Arrogance himself. But then something happened that made my brain and, apparently, my stubborn heart confused. He actually noticed when something went wrong. That afternoon, during a tense client call, our shared presentations suddenly froze. Panic rose in my chest. He didn't laugh. He didn't blame me. He calmly said, "Step back for a second. Let me handle this." And in minutes, with his quick thinking and a few keyboard shortcuts, the presentation was running again. I didn't like it. I hated it. But I noticed it. From that point on, every encounter became a mix of irritation and fascination. We argued about color schemes, font choices, even the wording of slides, but now there was something else underlying Eton, almost imperceptible connection. He listened when I spoke, really listened, even if he disagreed, and I found myself paying attention to his habits, the way he twirled a pen when he was thinking, the slight twitch of his lips when he caught me staring, the way he paused before responding to make sure he chose his words carefully. One late night, working together in the near-empty office, our arms brushed as we reached for the same folder. I yanked my hand back, heart racing. He raised an eyebrow and smiled, as if he could sense exactly what was happening inside me. "You're ridiculous," he said, voice low. "You know that, right?" I glared. "You're impossible. And yes, I know it. That's why I don't never mind." He laughed softly, a sound that made me wish I could cover my ears and listen at the same time. "Never mind what?" I didn't answer. Couldn't, because in that fleeting moment, I realized I didn't just feel irritation. There was curiosity too. Dangerous, terrifying curiosity. The following day, one of our coworkers commented on how tense we looked during the presentation. We exchanged a glance, and I felt my chest tighten. Did he notice how much my heart had been racing the past week? Did I even want him to notice? That night, as I sat alone reviewing notes, my mind betrayed me. I kept thinking about his smile, his laugh, even the way he furrowed his brow when he was concentrating. Why am I thinking about him? I hate him, but deep down, I knew it wasn't hate anymore. Not entirely. The tension between us had grown into something more complex. Every argument, every sarcastic remark, every roll of his eyes had layers I couldn't untangle. And I hated how much I wanted to. Weeks went by like this, forced proximity, constant debates, silent exchanges that carried more meaning than words. He teased, I snapped back, and somehow, in the friction, we were learning each other's rhythm. And that scared me, because I hated him, or I thought I did. But when the office went quiet, when the world paused and it was just the two of us, with nothing but spreadsheets and deadlines, I found myself watching him closely, not to criticize, not to mock, but to notice. And each time, my chest would tighten, my thoughts would spiral, and a part of me that I refused to name stirred to life. And that, more than anything, terrified me. It happened on a Thursday. That day, the office had been unusually chaotic, emails piling up, a client breathing down our necks, and the printer deciding to jam at the exact worst moment. I was elbowed deep in papers, muttering under my breath, when he suddenly appeared behind me with his usual smirk. "I swear, you're like a tornado in human form," he said, nudging a stack of folders out of my way. "How do you survive in this chaos?" I shot him a glare, but the edge in his tone softened slightly. "By not having you around, apparently," I muttered. He chuckled, but then, in an unexpected turn, he paused. He looked off, vulnerable, even. There was a tightness in his jaw, a subtle slump in his shoulders. I blinked, caught off guard. I had never seen him like this before, not even in our heated debates or sarcastic exchanges. "Are you okay?" I asked, before I could stop myself. He looked up surprised. Yeah, fine, just tired, I guess." Something in his voice made me hesitate. Fine, tired. The words sounded hollow, almost like a mask hiding something else. I wanted to press further, but I also wanted to run. The last thing I needed was to care about him, someone I had spent weeks convincing myself I hated. And yet, I didn't look away. Later that afternoon, during a quick coffee break, he sat beside me, unusually quiet. Normally, he would be cracking jokes, teasing me, or making some sarcastic comment that set my teeth on edge. But now, he simply stared out the window, lost in thought. I noticed a scar on his hand, faint and nearly invisible, and for some reason, I found myself asking about it. He looked at me, eyes narrowing slightly in surprise. "It's nothing. Doesn't look like nothing," I said gently. For a moment, he seemed frozen. Then he sighed and told me a story, brief, fragmented, about a childhood accident he had never mentioned to anyone at work. His voice was low, almost shy, and for the first time, I saw him not as the smug, infuriating man I argued with daily, but as a human being with fears, pain, and memories. I felt something I wasn't expecting: empathy. And with that empathy came a dangerous, unfamiliar pull. I hated it. I hated him for stirring emotions I wasn't ready to face. The rest of the day passed in a strange haze. We worked side by side, arguing over trivial project details, but there was a new undertone. Beneath the sarcasm and jabs, there was an unspoken understanding, a silent acknowledgement that neither of us could ignore anymore. That evening, as I packed my bag, I found him lingering near the door. "Hey, thanks for asking about my hand," he said, voice softer than usual. "You're welcome," I replied awkwardly. My chest felt tight. Why did it matter so much that he appreciated it? He smiled faintly. "I guess it means more than I expected." I nodded, and we left the office together. Walking down the quiet streets, the city lights flickering above us, I realized I was noticing everything about him: the tilt of his head when he talked, the cadence of his voice, the way he laughed softly at things I didn't find funny. I tried to fight it, to remind myself I hated him. But the truth was stubborn. I didn't hate him anymore. Not entirely. And that terrified me. Because the line between hate and something else, a dangerous, magnetic something else, was thinning. And I wasn't sure if I wanted it to. When the world went quiet, when the chaos of deadlines and client calls faded away, I found myself thinking about him. Not with irritation, not with anger, but with curiosity, a longing, a realization that maybe, just maybe, the man I had sworn to despise could become someone I wanted more than I was willing to admit. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the moments, the vulnerability, the faint warmth behind his eyes, the brief, accidental softness in his behavior. I hated how much I cared. I hated how much I wanted to understand him. And yet, the pull was undeniable. For the first time, I began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, this hatred I felt had always been masking something else entirely: attraction, fascination, desire, dangerous, frightening desire. The following week was chaos. Not the kind you can neatly file under busy work, but the kind that makes your chest tighten and your head spin because you can predict what's coming next. And every unpredictable moment seemed to orbit around him. We clashed more than ever. Every project decision became a battlefield, and every word out of his mouth was a spark threatening to ignite into fire. He had this uncanny ability to say exactly the wrong thing at exactly the right time. One minute, I wanted to punch him for his smug grin. The next, I wanted to kiss him just to see if he'd notice. It was maddening. "Are you serious?" I snapped during a late meeting. He had suggested a completely ridiculous approach to our client's marketing strategy, and I was halfway through explaining why it would fail. "Dead serious," he said, leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled. "I know you think I'm wrong, but trust me, I'm not. You're impossible," I muttered under my breath, but loud enough for him to hear. "Of course," he smirked. "You're adorable when you argue," he said softly, voice low, as if the room only existed for us. My stomach dropped. Why did that have to feel like a compliment instead of an insult? After that meeting, I wandered to the rooftop terrace to get some air, and, as expected, he followed. "You know, you're not as intimidating as you think," he said, hands in his pockets. I stopped mid-step, glaring at him. "Excuse me, intimidating? You're the one who, I couldn't even finish, because the truth was creeping in like a thief in the night. "I'm the one who irritates you," he offered, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, you are infuriating," I shouted. Then, as soon as the words left my mouth, I wished I could take them back. His grin widened, and it was infuriatingly charming. "Good," he said, voice soft. "Because you make me want to push you even more." I felt a strange heat rise in my chest. He didn't just irritate me anymore. He made me question everything I thought I knew about myself, about my feelings, about the line between hate and something dangerously like desire. Days passed in this dizzying push-pull pattern. He would annoy me to no end in the morning, and by afternoon, I caught myself laughing at a joke I didn't want to admit was funny. He would roll his eyes at my suggestions, only to secretly follow them when they proved to be smarter than his plan. And the worst, or maybe the best part, I noticed it. Every glance, every smirk, every teasing comment made my chest tighten. I hated myself for noticing. The turning point came during a late-night work session. We were alone in the office, the rest of the team long gone. Tension had been simmering all evening, words clipped, sarcasm flying like sparks from a fire. And then, somehow, we reached a point where neither of us wanted to speak. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged. I looked up and found him watching me. Not with arrogance this time, not with smugness, just looking, really looking. "What?" I asked, my voice a whisper. "Nothing," he said. But the way he said it made me shiver. It wasn't nothing. It was everything. And for the first time, I saw him not as my enemy, but as someone who could, if I let him, get under my skin in ways I didn't want to admit. That night, I left the office feeling dizzy, frustrated, and more confused than I had been in years. I hated him. And yet, a part of me, an entirely terrifying part, wanted him, wanted to know him, wanted to understand why he had such a grip on my mind, my chest, my thoughts. I wasn't sure if it was desire, curiosity, or something else entirely. But I knew one thing: the line between hate and something dangerously like love was blurring. And the more he challenged me, irritated me, and somehow, without trying, drew me closer, the more I realized I couldn't ignore it. That night, lying awake, I replayed our interactions, every argument, every smirk, every stolen glance, and finally, I admitted it to myself, though I'd never say it out loud. I was falling into something I didn't want, into someone I had spent weeks convincing myself I hated. And that realization scared me more than any argument we'd had. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of day that starts ordinary and ends entirely unexpected. We were in the conference room, laptops open, markers scattered across the table, debating the finer points of our client's campaign. He was being his usual infuriating self, smirking at every suggestion I made, interrupting just enough to make me snap. "You really think that'll work?" he asked, voice laced with disbelief. "I don't know if you understand the scale of this project." I slammed my pen down harder than necessary. "And you do understand it, apparently. Enlighten me, Mr. Exter." He leaned back, arms crossed, watching me with that maddeningly calm expression, the corner of his mouth twitching into a smirk. I felt my pulse quicken in a way I couldn't explain, irritation mixed with something else, something heavier, warmer, and entirely unmanageable. Then, the moment happened. He reached across the table for a marker we both needed at the exact same time. Our hands brushed, just briefly, just a light, accidental touch, but it felt electric. My stomach flipped, my fingers tingled, and, just like that, the world outside the room, deadlines, client expectations. I yanked my hand back, cursing under my breath. He noticed, of course. He always noticed. And instead of apologizing or pretending it hadn't happened, he let his hand linger near mine, a subtle but deliberate tease. "You're jumpy," he said softly, voice low enough that my heart nearly stopped. I'm not," I started, then caught myself, because I couldn't say it. I couldn't admit what had just happened, not even to myself. He smiled faintly, that half smirk that used to drive me insane. "Relax, it's just a touch, just a touch. Just a touch that made my chest tighten and my thoughts spiral. Just a touch that made me question every feeling I'd convinced myself I had about him." For the rest of the meeting, we avoided touching hands again, of course, but I caught him stealing glances, subtle ones that lingered too long to be coincidence, and I found myself doing the same. I hated myself for noticing. I hated him for making me notice, but the truth was undeniable. I wanted to, more than I cared to admit. After work, I walked to my car, replaying that single, fleeting moment over and over. Every detail burned in my mind: the light pressure of his fingers, the warmth of his hand near mine, the faint shift in his expression that made it clear he had felt it too. My chest ached in a way that anger alone couldn't explain. It wasn't just attraction. It was magnetic, dangerous, confusing, and completely terrifying. That evening, I tried to focus on anything else. The traffic, a podcast, a text from a friend. Nothing worked. My thoughts kept returning to him, to that touch, to the way his eyes had lingered on me, almost challenging me, almost daring me to acknowledge what I already felt. And here's the worst part. I hated that I liked him. Hated that my body betrayed me when my mind screamed at him. Hated the warmth that spread across my chest when I remembered his smirk. Hated how much I wanted to be near him, to hear his voice, to feel the tension crackle between us again. The next day, we were back at it debates, sarcastic remarks, relentless teasing. But underneath it all, there was a shift. A subtle current that neither of us could ignore. And though I tried to fight it, tried to convince myself it was imagination, there was no denying it. The line between hate and desire had begun to blur. By the time we left the office, my mind was a mess of contradictions. I hated him. I didn't. I wanted him. I didn't. I wanted to run. And at the same time, I wanted him to follow me out the door, to laugh, to tease, to touch my hand again in purpose this time. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and admitted the truth to myself. I hated every word he said. I wanted to punch him daily. I swore I would never, ever like him. And yet, when the world went quiet, when the chaos faded, when there was nothing but my own thoughts, I realized the most terrifying thing. I wanted him more than I could admit. And that realization changed everything. It happened on a Wednesday, just another long, gray day at the office, when he did something that completely threw me off balance. I had spilled coffee all over my notes, the ones I had spent hours meticulously preparing for the client meeting. Normally, I would have groaned, grabbed a napkin, and cursed the universe under my breath. But this time, he leaned over, hands surprisingly steady and gentle, and helped me clean it up. "Here, let me," he said, his voice softer than usual. No smirk, no sarcastic remark, just him helping. I froze, watching him dab the wet pages with a napkin. My chest tightened, an unfamiliar warmth spreading through me. I wanted to pull away, to insist I could handle it myself. But part of me didn't. Part of me wanted to let him help, to let him see me in a moment of clumsiness, of imperfection. "You're really thorough," he muttered, eyes focused on the papers. "I didn't realize how much work you'd put in." I blinked, caught off guard. The words weren't sarcastic. There was no hidden jab, just recognition. And for some reason, that simple acknowledgement hit me harder than anything he'd ever said during our endless debates. "Thanks," I mumbled, almost embarrassed. He gave me a small smile and shrugged. "No problem. You'd do the same for me, I'm guessing." I didn't answer, because the truth was, yes, I would. And now, seeing him act without pretense, without arrogance, without that infuriating smirk, made me question everything I thought I knew about him, about us. Later that day, we were reviewing slides when a minor technical glitch threatened to ruin our presentation. Without hesitation, he calmly fixed it. No complaints, no sarcasm, no need to prove he was smarter. Just competence, patience, and quiet care. I couldn't stop watching him, and for the first time, I allowed myself to admit that my feelings weren't just about irritation or frustration anymore. I didn't hate him, not truly. Something deeper was growing, something I had spent weeks trying to deny. After work, I caught him in the lobby, tying his tie before heading out. He noticed me staring and gave that casual, effortless smile, one that had once made me want to strangle him. "You okay?" he asked. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, you better now," he said softly. And just like that, the words simple, understated, carried more weight than any sarcastic comment or witty remark ever could. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts were a tangle of contradictions. I hated him, yet I wanted him. I wanted to argue with him, yet I craved his presence. I despised his arrogance, yet I admired the moments of genuine care I hadn't noticed before. And worst of all, best of all, depending on how you looked at it, I realized I was slowly, terrifyingly, undeniably falling for him. The next morning, our interactions carried a subtle shift. We still bickered, of course that had become our rhythm, but beneath the barbs and eye rolls was a quiet awareness, a recognition that neither of us could ignore anymore. Every glance, every touch, every carefully measured word carried new meaning. I caught him watching me during a meeting, his expression softening when he thought I wasn't looking. I felt my chest flutter, a dangerous thrill that made me blush despite myself. I wanted to look away. I wanted to act annoyed. I wanted to deny it. But I couldn't. Not entirely. And in that moment, I understood the truth. Love doesn't always announce itself with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes, it seeps in quietly, through small, unexpected acts of kindness, through patience, through the way someone notices the little things about you. I hated how much I wanted him. Hated that he could make me feel this way without even trying. Hated that I was beginning to trust him, to rely on him, to let him in just a little. But I also couldn't stop thinking about it, about him, about that rare glimpse of softness that made him human, real, and utterly magnetic. And that scared me more than any argument we'd had, any sarcastic remark he'd thrown, or any day spent in unbearable proximity, because I knew, deep down, that once you let someone see you, really see you, it becomes nearly impossible to ignore what comes next. And I didn't want. After that week, things shifted, not drastically, not in ways anyone else would notice, but enough for me to feel it every time he was around. Our arguments became dangerous, not in a literal sense, but in a way that made my chest tighten, my stomach flip, and my thoughts spiral in ways I didn't expect. "You're impossible," I muttered one morning as we reviewed the latest client report. "I'm not impossible," he shot back, voice low, eyes meeting mine. "I'm challenging. There's a difference. Challenging." "You're infuriating," I snapped, shoving my pen across the table. He leaned forward slightly, that infuriating smirk playing on his lips. "Infuriating, huh? Is that your way of saying I make your heart race?" I nearly dropped my coffee. "What?" I stammered, heat rushing to my cheeks. He raised a brow, perfectly calm. I said, "Nothing. Forget it." My chest thudded like a drum, and for the first time, I realized just how dangerous this push-pull dynamic had become. I hated him. I wanted to punch him, argue with him, and storm out of the office. And yet, I wanted him closer, wanted him to notice me, to tease me, to make me feel like I mattered in ways I wasn't ready to admit. That afternoon, we ended up working late again, alone, of course, because the universe apparently had a cruel sense of humor. We were reviewing charts when our hands brushed again, just a fleeting touch as I reached for a paper, but it was enough. Enough to make me jump, enough to make my pulse spike, enough to make me aware that my every nerve was alive with awareness of him. "Careful," he said, eyes glinting with amusement. "You're like a live wire." "I am not," I started, but stopped. Because yes, I was. And he knew it. And I hated him for knowing it. And then he leaned closer, close enough that I could feel his breath, and whispered, "You know, you argue too well to be angry all the time." "I kind of like it." I froze, heart hammering in my chest. "Kind of like it." His voice, that low, teasing tone, set something on fire inside me, a mix of confusion, frustration, and desire I wasn't ready to name. We laughed, and then we argued again. It was ridiculous. Every sentence we spoke, every glance we exchanged, carried double meanings we both refused to acknowledge. He would push, I would push back, and somehow, we were both winning and losing at the same time. By the end of the week, our coworkers were whispering, "Have you noticed them?" Someone asked. "They fight like cats and dogs, but there's something else there." I glared at the comment, though internally I had to admit, yes, there was something else. Something undeniable, magnetic, and frighteningly intense. Something that made me crave his attention even as I wanted to shove him out the door. One night, after another late session, we were walking to the parking lot. The city lights glinted off the wet pavement, and silence fell between us. Not uncomfortable silence, but the kind that hums with unspoken tension. "You're quiet," he said softly. "I'm thinking," I replied, heart racing faster than I wanted to admit. "About me?" he asked, tone teasing. But there was a seriousness beneath it that made my knees feel weak. I froze. "No," I said immediately, and then cursed myself internally because my voice sounded unsure. He smiled knowingly, that infuriating smirk that had caused me endless frustration, and said nothing more. But his eyes said everything. That was the danger of our dynamic, the push-pull game. Every sarcastic remark, every teasing jab, every accidental touch, carried weight. It wasn't just hate anymore. It was more, much more. By the time I reached my car, I was a mess of contradictions. I hated him. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to kiss him. I wanted to run. I wanted to stay. And the scariest truth of all, I couldn't imagine a single day without him. And I knew, deep down, that I wasn't the only one. It was a Friday evening, and the office was buzzing with the energy of an impending weekend. I thought I was ready to leave, to forget about him for the next 48 hours, and pretend that everything was just the usual bickering, sarcasm, and chaos. But of course, the universe had other plans. The client had organized a small after-hours networking event, and naturally, he had to be there. I tried to convince myself it wouldn't matter, that I could stand on the sidelines, sip my drink, and act like I didn't care. But as soon as I saw him across the room, laughing effortlessly at a joke from another colleague, someone who had been flirting with him, shamelessly, I felt a sting in my chest I was NT prepared for. "Really?" I muttered under my breath. Of course, he noticed my glare. He always noticed. And when our eyes met, that infuriating smirk appeared. But this time, there was no teasing, no playful banter, just a flash of surprise, maybe even guilt. I tried to stay calm, sipping my drink, keeping my distance, but my mind betrayed me. Every laugh he shared, every casual glance toward the woman talking to him, made my stomach twist. Jealousy, pure, undeniable jealousy. And that scared me more than anything else, because it meant I cared, really cared. When the event ended, we were walking to the elevator together, and I couldn't keep my feelings bottled up any longer. "You seemed very friendly with her," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He frowned, looking genuinely confused. "Friendly? It was a conversation about the project. That's it." I rolled my eyes, feeling my frustration boil over. "Right, sure, project," he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Listen, I don't know what you're getting at, but if you're thinking I'm interested in anyone else, you're wrong." My heart thudded. Wrong. Not just wrong, but my worst fear proven false. The relief was overwhelming, but so was the vulnerability it exposed. Because if I cared this much, it meant the truth I had been denying for weeks was finally unavoidable. "You care too much," he said quietly, almost a whisper, and I felt the weight of his gaze. "You get so frustrated, but I can see it, everything you feel, even when you try to hide it." I froze. He could see it. He could see me. Every longing glance, every heartbeat that betrayed my anger, every moment of desire I tried to suppress. I don't know what you mean," I stammered, though my chest was tight, my hands clammy. He stepped closer, the world narrowing to just the two of us. "You don't have to lie," he said softly. "I felt it too. This thing between us, it's not just hate anymore, is it?" And there it was, the admission I had been terrified to say out loud, but that my body and mind had been screaming for weeks. I hated it, loved it, feared it, desired it, all at once. I looked away, unable to meet his gaze, because if I did, I might crumble entirely. I don't know," I whispered. I hate that I like you," he smiled, but it was gentle this time, nothing smug, nothing teasing. "Good," he said softly, "because I like you too, and I hate it as much as you do." And just like that, the tension that had been simmering for weeks reached its breaking point. Anger, frustration, attraction, desire, they all collided in a way that left me breathless. For the first time, I realized that our hate, our endless arguing, our push-pull dynamic wasn't about dislike at all. It was about intensity, connection, and a chemistry that refused to be ignored. By the time we left the building, the city lights reflected off the wet pavement, creating a glittering path in front of us. Walking side by side, the silence was no longer awkward. It was charged, electric, and full of possibility. I knew then, without a doubt, that the lines between hate, fascination, and desire had completely blurred. And that scared me more than any argument or sarcastic remark ever could. Because now, there was no going back. The next morning, I walked into the office, feeling raw, exposed, and more aware of him than ever before. That night at the networking event had changed something. I couldn't stop replaying his words in my head. "I've felt it too. This thing between us." My chest ached, my thoughts spun, and I realized I could no longer pretend our dynamic was just hatred and sarcasm. He was waiting by the coffee machine when I arrived. I wanted to walk past, to act normal, to bury my feelings in the monotony of work, but something in his posture relaxed, but with that familiar tension in his shoulders, made me pause. "You came early," he said casually, though his eyes betrayed curiosity. "I had things to do," I replied, heart racing. I cursed under my breath. Why did everything feel like a test around him? He smirked, that infuriating smirk I was beginning to secretly love. "Right? Things to do." We worked side by side all morning, exchanging our usual banter. But beneath the words, beneath the sarcasm and teasing, there was an unspoken understanding. Something that hadn't existed before. He didn't just irritate me anymore. He unsettled me in a way that made my thoughts spiral, my chest tighten, and my heart race. By lunchtime, I couldn't take it anymore. "Look," I said abruptly, shutting my laptop with a little more force than necessary. "We need to talk. Seriously." He looked up, surprise flickering across his face, but he didn't move away. "Okay," he said, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed. "Talk." I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. I can't keep pretending. I hate that I feel this way, but I do, about you. I don't know when it started. Maybe it's always been there, but I can't ignore it anymore. His expression softened. The smirk was gone, replaced with something I couldn't quite name, something vulnerable, I thought. I was the only one, he admitted quietly. I've felt it too. Every argument, every sarcastic comment, every stupid fight we headed has been driving me crazy because I can't stop thinking about you. And I hate that I can't. The words hit me like a thunderclap. The same man who had irritated me, teased me, and pushed every button I had, was feeling the same chaos I was. And suddenly, all the tension, all the arguments, all the push-pull games made sense. They weren't hatred, they were intensity, chemistry, something neither of us could deny. I don't know what to do, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I hate that I want this, but I do. He reached across the table, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. His touch was gentle, careful, electric. Then maybe we stop pretending, he said. Stop arguing just to hide how we feel. Maybe it's time to be honest, for once. And just like that, the dam broke. I wanted to scream, to laugh, to cry all at the same time. I hated that it had taken so long to acknowledge it, but I also knew it was inevitable. We had been circling this moment for weeks, teasing, arguing, challenging, and now, finally, it was here. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking, really talking, about everything we'd tried to hide: the attraction, the frustration, the magnetic pull that had neither of us prepared for. For the first time, we were honest, raw, and vulnerable with each other. And it was terrifying and exhilarating. By the time the office emptied, we were closer than ever. The arguments still lingered, but they were different now, laced with affection, understanding, and a dangerous, thrilling chemistry that neither of us could ignore. Walking out together, the city lights glowing around us, I realized something. All the tension, all the irritation, all the moments of frustration had been leading to this, to honesty, to recognition, to each of us finally admitting the truth. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid, because I knew that even though it had started with hate, what we were feeling now was real, dangerous, intense, undeniable. The office felt different that morning, not louder, not emptier, just charged. Every glance, every breath, every step we took around each other seemed to carry weight. By now, we were no longer pretending. The walls we had built around our feelings had begun to crumble, and neither of us could ignore the truth any longer. It happened during a client call that required us to present together. We stood side by side at the conference table, papers in hand, and for the first time, I felt calm. Not because I was confident about the presentation, but because he was there. Because despite weeks of sarcasm, tension, and relentless arguing, he had become my anchor. My unexpected, maddening, infuriating anchor. As we wrapped up, the client excused themselves, leaving the room empty, except for the two of us. I exhaled, feeling a strange mix of relief and nervous anticipation. You did well, he said softly, eyes meeting mine. Not teasing, not sarcastic, just honest. Thanks, I replied, heart hammering in my chest. My voice sounded unsteady, but I didn't care. I wanted him to know exactly how I felt. There was a pause, a quiet, suspended moment where the world seemed to shrink until it was just the two of us. And then, without thinking, without warning, he stepped closer. His hand brushed against mine, not the accidental touch of before, but deliberate, intentional. Electricity shot through me. My breath caught. I can't keep pretending, he whispered, voice low and raw. I've hated every moment of this, pretending we're just co-workers. I've wanted you more than I can admit since the moment we started arguing. My chest tightened. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to say no, that this was crazy, that I couldn't fall for him. But the truth was there, undeniable, burning in my veins. I feel the same, I admitted, barely above a whisper. I've hated it, but I can't stop thinking about you either. His grin, soft, real, no longer teasing, spread across his face. And then, just like that, he closed the distance. Our lips met in a kiss that was electric, urgent, and yet tender. A kiss that held weeks of frustration, longing, and unspoken truths. I had hated him. I had despised every sarcastic word, every smug grin. And yet, in that moment, all of it melted away. The hate, the tension, the arguments they had been building to this, to him, to us. Pulling back slightly, he rested his forehead against mine, breathing the same air, our eyes locked. You're incredible, he murmured, voice low, full of sincerity. I hate how much I love you. I hate it too, I whispered, laughing nervously despite the intensity of the moment. But I do. We stayed like that for a long while, just holding each other, letting the world fade away. The tension, the frustration, the sarcasm, they had transformed into something far more powerful. Understanding, trust, and a connection neither of us could ignore. By the end of that day, everything had changed. The office, once a battlefield, felt warmer, lighter. Our arguments didn't disappear, they evolved into playful banter and teasing that carried affection beneath it. Every glance, every touch, every word was now layered with love, respect, and desire. That evening, as we walked out together under the soft glow of the city lights, I realized how far we had come. We had started with hate, irritation, and endless arguments. But through the chaos, through the push-pull, through the moments of vulnerability and tension, we had found something real, something intense, something worth risking everything for. And in that moment, I understood the paradox of our story, the very thing that had driven us apart, our intensity. Our unwillingness to hold back was the same thing that had brought us together. Hate had turned into love. Frustration had turned into desire. And every sarcastic word, every heated argument, had been a step on the path to this us. I hated every word he had said. I had despised him for making me question everything. And yet, when the world went quiet, when the office emptied, when the city lights glimmered like stars around us, I found myself wanting him more than I could ever admit. And now, I didn't have to hide it anymore. The next morning, the office felt different. I walked in, fully aware that things between us had shifted. No longer were we just co-workers with a volatile dynamic. No longer were we locked in sarcasm, eye rolls, and endless arguments. We were something else. Something that carried weight, warmth, and a thrilling unpredictability I was only just learning to navigate. He was already there, leaning against the counter, sipping his coffee with that familiar half smirk. But this time, it wasn't mocking or infuriating. There was softness behind his eyes, a hint of humor, and a subtle excitement I could sense. "Morning," he said casually, but his eyes lingered on me in a way that made my chest tighten. "Morning," I replied, heart racing. Coffee," I offered, holding out my mug. He raised an eyebrow, smirking. "You're offering me coffee? Trying to butter me up before I steal all the credit on the presentation?" I rolled my eyes, though a small smile escaped. "Not trying. Maybe just testing your reaction." He laughed, and that sound, light, teasing, familiar, made the tension. The first few days were awkward. Playful teasing now had a layer of intimacy I hadn't experienced before. Every glance carried meaning. Every touch, even accidental, sent shivers down my spine. The arguments hadn't disappeared, they had transformed into banter laced with affection. "Are you sure that's the right metric?" I asked during a meeting, smirking. "Are you sure you're not just trying to get my attention?" He shot back, smirk wide, eyes twinkling. I felt my cheeks heat up. "Maybe I am," I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. He leaned closer, just enough that I could feel his presence, without touching me. "Good, because it's working." And there it was, again, the thrill, the pull, the undeniable chemistry that had always been there. But now it had context. Now it had meaning. Now it was ours. Outside the office, things were changing too. Lunches became shared moments rather than rushed bites. Coffee breaks became excuses to sit together. Texts that had once been strictly professional were now sprinkled with jokes, teasing, and subtle flirtation. One afternoon, we were reviewing slides together when our hands accidentally brushed. Both of us froze, a nervous laugh escaping my lips. "You're really enjoying making me flustered, aren't you?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me. "I might be," he admitted, voice low, eyes locking with mine. "But you like it too. Admit it." I wanted to argue, to say no, but I didn't. I couldn't. Not really. The truth was there, undeniable, warming every nerve in my body. Maybe I do," I whispered, and his grin widened in triumph. That night, walking home, I couldn't stop replaying our day. Every joke, every glance, every moment of closeness made me realize just how deeply I cared. Hate had once ruled our relationship, but now love, trust, and desire had taken over, filling the spaces once dominated by sarcasm and tension, and I loved it. Every chaotic, confusing, thrilling second of it. By the end of the week, we had settled into a rhythm. Arguments turned playful. Accidental touches became opportunities for subtle connection. Sarcastic comments were often punctuated with teasing smiles, small gestures, and moments of unexpected tenderness. I realized something important. Love doesn't erase the person someone is, it enhances it. It transforms tension into intimacy, frustration into desire, sarcasm into laughter, and hate into a deep, fiery connection that neither of us could have predicted. And as I left the office that Friday, walking beside him under the glow of streetlights, I finally understood the truth I had been denying for weeks. Hate and love aren't opposites. Sometimes they're two sides of the same coin, two forces that, when combined, create a connection so intense that it cannot be ignored, suppressed, or denied. And that's exactly what we had found in each other. By the time the next week rolled around, everything had changed. The office that had once felt like a battlefield now felt like a shared playground, a space where tension, attraction, and affection coexisted in a delicate, thrilling balance. We had found our rhythm, arguing less, laughing more, and noticing each other in ways that went far beyond sarcasm and professional courtesy. It started with small things: a lingering glance during meetings, shared inside jokes no one else understood, a brush of hands that didn't need to be accidental to feel electric. Every moment carried weight. Every interaction carried meaning. And slowly, I realized just how much my life had shifted because of him. One evening, long after the office had emptied, we found ourselves on the rooftop terrace, watching the city lights flicker below. The sky was a deep indigo, the first stars beginning to glimmer. I felt a sense of calm, a rare serenity I hadn't experienced in weeks. "You know," he began, voice soft, "I hated every argument we had at first. Every sarcastic comment, every heated debate." I laughed, a little bitter, a little fond. "Oh, you mean you didn't secretly enjoy it?" He smirked, leaning closer. "I hated it, yes, but only because I couldn't admit how much I liked you. Every word, every fight, it was all me trying to keep my feelings in check. And I failed spectacularly. I felt warmth flood my chest. I hated you too," I admitted. But in the same way, the more I argued, the more I realized I couldn't ignore how I felt. "And now, I don't want to." He smiled, that real, unguarded smile that made me feel like the world could stop and we'd still exist perfectly in that moment. "Neither do I." We leaned closer, slowly, deliberately, savoring the tension that had once made us ache. And then, without hesitation, our lips met. The kiss was gentle at first, tender, full of the vulnerability we had both hidden for so long. Then, it deepened, urgent and electric, carrying all the frustration, longing, and desire of weeks into a single, perfect moment. When we finally pulled apart, his forehead resting against mine, I realized something important. Hate had brought us together. Argument, sarcasm, frustration, and relentless tension had been the conduit to something far deeper. Trust, passion, and an undeniable connection. "I guess we're officially impossible together," I whispered, laughing softly. "Impossible? Maybe," he said, voice teasing but warm. "But I wouldn't have it any other way." And in that moment, I knew we had crossed the line completely. From hate to love, from friction to intimacy, from frustration to fulfillment. We weren't just co-workers or adversaries anymore. We were partners, equals, and more than that, we were each other's constant, unexpected, thrilling presence in a world that felt calmer, brighter, and infinitely more exciting together. Weeks turned into months. Arguments still happened. Of course, they were part of who we were, but they were different now, playful, affectionate, and occasionally teasing in ways that made our hearts race without any fear or tension. Every glance, every touch, every word was imbued with a shared understanding, a connection that had survived the storm of hate and emerged stronger, warmer, and utterly unbreakable. And so, the story that had started with irritation, sarcasm, and mutual frustration reached its beautiful resolution. We had discovered something rare and unexpected, a love built from fire, tension, and undeniable chemistry, a love that didn't erase who we were, amplified it, a love that made us better, braver, and entirely complete together. And if there's one lesson here, it's this: sometimes, the people who drive you crazy, the ones who push every button and make your heart race without your permission, are the ones worth holding on to. Because love doesn't always arrive gently. Sometimes, it comes storming in, messy and complicated, and leaves you with a heart fuller than you ever imagined. So, if you've been on a roller coaster of emotions, if you've argued, fought, and maybe even hated someone before realizing your feelings ran deeper, remember this: the chaos can lead to something beautiful, something real, something unforgettable. If you enjoyed this story, if it made your heart race, or brought a smile to your face, don't forget to like this video. Share it with someone who loves a good hate to love story, and subscribe for more stories that tug at your heartstrings. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a tale that makes you laugh, cry, and fall in love with words again. Because some stories are worth experiencing more than once, and this one will stay with you.